Good morning. I'd like to call the Brookings County Commission meeting Tuesday, March 16th, 2021 to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 on the agenda, invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Hearing none. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I had a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections?
I do need to add personnel to the executive session at the end, 125-1 for personnel.
What's that on the end? What was the number?
125-2 subpara 1 for personnel.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda items. Approval of the minutes, approval of the travel education or travel requests, approval of personnel action notices, approval of cellular authorizations, and approval of the human services report. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions, corrections there? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma. Aye. Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 6, routine business. Approval of the claims. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions, commissioners? Hearing none, call the roll.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma. Aye. Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number B, recognition of employees' anniversaries. The first one we have is Dave Beitler, 5 years in January. Would you please come forward? I've asked Commissioner Pierce to hand out the certificates.
It is my pleasure today to give you the certificate of appreciation in recognition of 5 years of dedicated exceptional service in the Brookings County Sheriff's Office. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next one is Melanie Kent, 5 years in February.
In recognition of 5 years of dedicated exceptional service in the Brookings County Community Health Office. Thank you.
Next is Shelley Lenander, 10 years in March.
Shelley, I'm going to give you this certificate of appreciation in recognition of 10 years of dedicated exceptional service in the Brookings County Sheriff's Office. Thank you for all you do. Thank you.
The next is Kristen Witchy, 15 years in February.
Pleasure, Kristen, to give you the certificate of appreciation in recognition of 15 years of dedicated exceptional service in the Brookings County Commission Department. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to item C, department head reports. Lori, do you have a report? Okay. Bob?
Good morning. First of all, we had a truck accident on Saturday. 9, just off the, if you stand in the front door of 3M's Visitor Center and look over to the big blue water tank to the east, it was right there on the interstate. They called me out, had 50 to 75 gallons of diesel fuel. Technically spilt, but most of it went up in smoke. So DNR, we sent a report into DNR for the environmental stuff. We put some booms out to try to catch anything. We knew the storm was coming in, so anything that was on the ground, oil or diesel, was going to end up going downstream. So we put some booms up to hopefully capture any of the oil and stuff like that. And then DNR will send their teams out as soon as the snow melts to see if there is any long-term damage there. I did send out a staff report. We won't go over that word for word, but the big thing is we had a points of dispensing on March 11th. Last time we had over 700 hours volunteer. This time we had 650 hours and 9 minutes. And 643 hours and 16 minutes of that was strictly Brookings County volunteers. We had Connington County Sheriff came down. South Dakota, Watertown Fire and Rescue came down and took a look at what we're doing, because they're fixing to implement their own pods up there. And then South Dakota Office of Emergency Management stopped by and took a look at the situation. The accident, we had to renew our FCC license. Apparently it's every 10 years. They called me looking for a password, which was last done in 2011, so needless to say, we couldn't find the password. We're good now till 2031, and this license covers all of our repeaters, to include Sinai, Bruce, White, the city of Brookings, and it will be amended once we get the new Elkton repeater put in place. And let me see, I had some travel requests in. I guess the big thing, the NACO annual conference was supposed to be, I want to say Grand Rapids, Michigan this year, but that's, no, not Savannah, Georgia, I think. No, Texas. Wherever it was supposed to be, it's been changed. Now it's in a place called Prince George's County, Maryland, and that is south of Washington, D.C., not necessarily where there's like subways and stuff like that. So it's going to be an interesting thing, and keep an eye open on that. As I get more information, I'll be more than happy to share it with the board. There is, of course, the NACO Legislative Conference going on this month, and there's various things coming up. Near the latter part of the month, there's some real good sessions. We're going to have a lot of federal folks talking to people over the Zoom, and I encourage anyone that signed up for it to go ahead and listen in. If you do want to listen in to a certain subject and you didn't sign up, let me know, and we can meet in the conference room, and I can pull a Zoom in, and we could. So if you get emails and you see a certain topic that you think is outstanding, there's no reason we can't look at it on a big screen and let everyone take a look at it. That's all I have. Any questions? I do want to thank the Brookings County community again for the volunteers on these pods, points of dispensing. Without the volunteers, and we dropped down to 92 this time, but the reason for that is the South Dakota State University was on spring break, so we had 2 students, and they was only there for like an hour period at a time. So we anticipate our next one is March 25th. It's the second shot, and then April the 8th would be another second shot pod, and we anticipate the university to provide students for those coming up. So. And we'll have more pods coming, obviously. We have to look at all the population in Brookings County. We don't want our special needs population to fall through the cracks. We've been getting some contacts from them. We're about ready to probably have to call a special PPCC meeting just to talk about the special needs population. We don't want to treat them differently, but what we want to do, we want to include them and make sure they're fully aware of what's going on in the points of dispensing and give them the same opportunity as every other citizen in the county has to go and get the vaccination. That's my report. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Jacob, do you have?
Just a quick update for my office. Last was the appeal deadline for the local board level of appeals. And at that point in time, we had 10 actual appeals countywide, and we had 29 corrections from our office. Where those corrections come from, somebody would come in to question something on their assessment, and we find something that's done on our end in error, so we can correct that and bring that forward to the board as a correction on their behalf, but we do that for them, so it's not an appeal. Anybody that has made the local board level for appeals, those 10 appeals, if they don't get what they want out of the local board level, or if we feel aggrieved by what the local board does for changes, those people have the opportunity to go to the county board level, and the deadline on that is April 6th. If you own property outside of the jurisdiction you're appealing, you can skip that local board level and go right to that county board level deadline of April 6th. So that's where we're sitting right now. Any questions?
Commissioner Pierce?
I think I saw this in Stacy's report, but I can't remember. Did we have a date set aside for when we're going to hear those?
Tuesday, April 13th.
Tuesday, April 13th. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
that's, that was on the calendar, the 2021 calendar that went out as a special commission meeting date for that. It's not part of a commission meeting, it's a kind of an in-between Tuesday between two commission meetings set aside specific for equalization boards.
And is that at 8:30?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dustin?
Morning. That we had since March 2nd. The gun range, we had 88 people come in through our public hours. In the archery range, we had 109. The events we hosted since March 2nd were, we had our gun league. That finally wrapped up. That was an 8-week gun league. We did a women's league and then a mixed league. If you showed up every night on Monday for the 8 weeks, we gave away a free membership. We drew a name. And then the last night, we did a little fun shoot. I went to the bowling alley and got a bowling pin. And we allowed everybody one shot to shoot at the bowling pin. And the Lanes, the new bowling alley in town, gave us certificates. So we gave away a coupon if you hit the bowling pin. It was 20 yards. About 75% of the people hit it. So the gun leagues are working. Sheriff's Office, they came in and qualified. ATF was in to qualify. Brookings Pistol and Rifle Club, they're still continuing their Tuesday night shoot. I think they got a couple weeks left. GF&P, they were in and used the classroom on March 3rd. We hosted another enhanced concealed carry class on March 7th. We had our in-house PRC, the Pistol Range Committee, meeting on March 9th. We're going over some preventative maintenance things for the gun range. Beacon Hill was in on March 11th. We had our monthly Wildlife Federation in the Arch Range on March 5th. Midwest Maidens were in on March 5th, and they're in this Friday again to practice. Big Sioux Bowman League is done for the year. JOAD, they ended their winter session, and we have registration for their spring session tonight. That's another 10-week session. 4-H continues to do 4-H shooting sports. They have 4 weeks left, and they take a weekend off for Easter. We're doing a Vegas virtual shoot. Jason with JOAD reached out to me, and they do a Vegas shoot every year, actually in Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, with COVID this year, they're limiting the numbers of people that they're allowing to go out there. So what they're doing a virtual shoot around the United States. So we're actually hosting one of those. They have to register with USAA, pay a fee, and then we can just, we're doing 4 nights. We're starting this Thursday night and doing 3 additional nights, one Thursday a week for the next 4 weeks. So basically, we're just a facility where they can come in and shoot, and then they have to enter their scores into the USAA website. I gave you guys a packet today about the full-time person, kind of a proposal. I don't know how in-depth you wanted to go through it, but I did 3 job descriptions. I gave you my job description, and then the proposed job description of the office manager that I would like to hire as a full-time position, and then the part-time membership assistant. I highlighted areas that I would like to keep, but I'm going to take some of those job duties away from them and give it to a full-time person so we're more consistent on some of those things. I know you guys haven't had a lot of time to look through it, but did you have any questions of the 3 job descriptions at all?
This is not on the agenda today to be, it's just
No,
for
this is-
information, so.
I missed the deadline to get it in, to get it put in the agenda, but my goal was to get it in as an action item for the next meeting. And if there was anything you guys would like me to change or had questions for me on the job descriptions.
Any questions?
Pretty complete.
Okay. And then the next thing was a proposed kind of wage for that person. You can see the 2021 starting annual wage, we were going to come in at a grade 5, which would be about $39,286 a year. And then on the bottom of that is the average estimate of $63,110.20. That is kind of an average depending on what they take for insurance. So it could be as low as $56,529. It could be as high as $70,248. Any questions on that portion at all?
I just want to say, and I said this last time, I'm certainly supportive of us doing a full-time person out there, because I have said that before. I think we need to do that. I really would prefer not to take action on it until we've had our full-day work session where we're looking at some of these issues. But it depends on where everybody else is at on that issue.
Okay,
So that was the proposed wage for the full-time person. The next page we put together was a wage I would like to move the part-timers. Right now they make $16.63. I was going to bring them back to a step 1 because I'm taking away some of those job responsibilities. And this would save us on labor as well, so we would start them off at a step 1 when we would continue to hire part-time labor. So they would start off at $14.14. Any questions on that at all?
Just to Commissioner Pierce's comment, I don't really want to delay it until then as far as taking action possibly. We'll have discussions, I think, before that. That meeting is to discuss some needs we're going to have going forward to next year. And the rest of this year, we'll have some jail expenses that we know we have anticipated and we'll discuss too. But this one, I think we'd like to get in position and advertise, to me, a little bit sooner as we get into the summer months and we start to ramp up the activity out there. I don't want us to fall behind on our performance out at the BCOAC. So I think if we could judiciously move through this process and get it approved or changed or suggested changes as a separate subject. I mean, I don't want to go outside that meeting because I think that's important, but I think this is important to get this taken care of as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you.
our planning meeting is in May, correct?
May 12th, yes.
And then the last page, I put together kind of some numbers for when we're open to the public and administrative hours. So like Monday through Friday, we're open 9 to 5. That would mainly be the hours that this person is going to work, but it would also be fluid to where if we needed some part-time help or I needed help with an event, they could work the night shift or the weekend shift. So that would save us some numbers as well, because I know it's all going to come down to budget. So right now in 2021, the salary budget is $125,151.59. $62,500 of that goes for full-time, and then $62,651.59 is the part-time budget. So what I did, the director, $62,500, and then proposed office manager would make the $39,529. I just rounded up to $19 an hour. I think it's actually $18.88 times 40 hours a week, 2,080 hours. And then we would have leftover part-time staff of $32,164, which would bump our total labor up. And this is just estimated because I know, like Ryan mentioned last time, if we have events that pop up, we have to staff those as well. So I'm estimating everything. I mean, it's with change every day, but The total would be $134,184. On a normal week, which is, I'm going to say summer hours, we're open 69 hours a week. That's for, I call them administrative hours and then public hours. January through April is obviously our busy time with 4-H shooting sports, our leagues, all the events we have. The Aeromates are inside, Midwest Maidens are inside. Those are the ones I know are going to happen, and hopefully we can keep bringing them into the facility. And with our enhanced concealed carry classes, we're at 87 hours, 87 and a half hours. That's once a month, and then every other month is 83 hours. So the public hours for the membership attendance, because we still need part-time labor, is 43 hours per week for 16 weeks, January through April, and then the 16 additional hours for the classes. So I broke all that down. And then May to December, 38 hours per week for 16 weeks. And then when we don't have an enhanced concealed carry class or no events, we're just open to the public. It's 29 hours per week for 20 weeks. So I tried to break that down a little bit to kind of show our hours and the events we have and the money.
When you have these hours for the classes, that's just
Yep.
to open the door, facilitate the
Yep,
class.
to get like their certificates, PR the place, bathrooms, make sure Kilmer's doing all our classes, so make sure he has everything he needs, collect the money, that kind of thing. And I would like to, this is what we're doing now, but obviously we would like to bring more people into the door, so that, I mean, we could need more part-time labor as well as we grow. But this is just what we're doing right now. Another thing, I have been taking attendance and our open hours. I don't want to change anything too drastic, but I get a little bit more time under my belt. I don't know if we need to be open to 9 o'clock every night. So maybe we could open up to like a 2 to an 8 or a 3 to 8, to where that full-time person would be working 2 hours of our public open hours for the ranges, and then we would only need 3 hours for the part-timers to come in and help us out. So there is, I would like to move a few things around, but this is what we're currently doing right now with our public hours, our administrative hours, and our events. Did I confuse you guys yet? Sorry, I tried to put it together.
I appreciate the hours, looking at it and trying to budget that out, and we've kind of always been looking for that, understanding who's covering what. The only thing I guess I look at, the 2021 salary budget, the difference there is that proposed office manager is another $25,000 in expenses because of benefits over and atop the part-timers. So I think you're using salary budget, which is fine, but it doesn't do the full picture for that office manager.
Yes, this is not any benefits. Yeah, this is
Benefits,
just the wage. Yes.
Right, so you would have benefits as the director, and then the part-timers would not, but then offering the office manager, they would go up another $25,000 roughly for benefits and stuff too. So the difference is a little bit more than the 125 and the 134 for our costs basis, because of the benefits. So it's closer to about $35,000, $36,000 difference, almost the total difference of the part-time staff costs, I think.
Any other questions at all, or anything you would like to see?
No.
And we want job descriptions, numbers, and how it would affect the part-time labor.
I guess my question for the board is, do you want to see this request to fill vacancy and this information, maybe do some tweaking of that at the next meeting in 3 weeks? Or what's, Commissioner Pierce had mentioned waiting until after the May 12th work session. I've kind of heard from Commissioner Bartley and Commissioner Pierce. What are the rest of you thinking? So that I know what, if you want this on the agenda or not at the next meeting.
I would move forward with it. I think waiting until May is just too long.
'Cause it'd be the end of May or into June. So,
I'm okay with moving forward with it, but I think we need time to actually digest this because I'm not sure that an N5 is the right wage grade for this position. And I want to actually be able to digest what's in this packet of information before we actually move forward with a wage grade discussion or any of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Do you want,
So our next meeting is, we actually have a 3-week kind of hiatus here due to an extra Tuesday in March. Is that long enough for you, now that you have this information? And if you need something else, you can sure reach out to myself or to Dustin to get that. And
Yeah.
maybe Dustin and I can sit down and tweak some information and maybe look at it and come up with some other information to send out to prior to that meeting.
I do think that based on today's exec session, we can sure have a conversation about what wage grade would even be appropriate and whether this is that or not ahead of that meeting. But I think that's something that we need time to actually digest and discuss.
Yes.
And I guess then if we're thinking about going forward without having that be part of our comprehensive study of what's going on with FTEs in the county, I didn't think we were talking about an office manager. I thought we were talking about a lower grade position. So I'm curious to know why all of a sudden it's a office manager position.
that was, I guess that's the title I put on it.
Okay.
I'll take whatever you guys feel, but, that's,
Did some of the duties fall under office manager
Yeah.
criteria? Like,
yeah, it's basically just being I mean, obviously, we're all the face of the building, but when I'm trying to promote it or doing other things and trying to get bids for maintenance or book events, I would just like somebody there that knew what was going on. The part-timers do great, but they're not there all the time. So I wanted to fill that position with a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They know every day what duties they have. On Monday, they help me close cash. Tuesday, they do a Facebook post, all that other stuff. I know this is basic things, but there's a lot of hidden job duties that we do that I think we can do better out there. Right now, I feel like I'm only doing everything 75%, but that's kind of where I'm sitting.
So to maintain some equity within our pay scale, we have kind of two positions that we have the administrative assistant position that's at a wage grade 4. And you can see, and I can get you some of exactly who those people are in those positions. The finance assistants, that's the gals right now that work down at the front counter down in the finance office, but I can get you who the administrative assistants are. And then at the wage grade 5 that Dustin had come to was the office coordinators, and some of those other positions. So
right.
that's definitely up for discussion, and I can send you kind of a clearer picture on what that looks like. And you have this wage plan too, each of you do, so you can kind of look at who that is, but I can sure get you that information.
So our next commission meeting is the 6th of April. Would it be able to agenda at that time? Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Would it be just for discussion at that time, or would it be like an action?
No, I would put it on for action at that time.
Okay.
I think here in these next 3 weeks, you and I can sit down again, share some additional information, and put together a very, add some other, those totals into some of those things and
Okay.
and have that for action on the 6th. Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to thank Stacy and Kristen too. They've been helping me with this whole process. But
Good.
that's all I got, unless you guys have any questions.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mike, you have a report?
The Veterans Affairs Clinic for veterans, the same day that we're having our second shot clinic up at the Swiftel, and we're trying to get the word out to all the veterans. That'll be done at the American Legion. They're going to bring in 10 veterans at a time, give them the vaccinations. They plan on doing about 200 at that time. The other thing I have is we've been meeting well, it started out as weekly, and now it's went to monthly on Zoom meetings with some of the organizations. Right now we have Salvation Army, ICAP, United Way, and Brookings County. And we had our last meeting last Thursday. What I like to say about it is I think it's a very good meeting. And we did reach out, Heidi did reach out to Commissioner Boersma and said that we wanted to keep it up. I think Heidi misunderstood what we're trying to say. We really are wanting ones that actually provide the services to people. You know, others can have input and stuff, but I know at one time we had a couple of these meetings that people got in there and they started talking about different areas. One of the areas a lot of talk about was with the housing, and I did some research. I contacted the housing. I found out from different housing boards that our housing board is like every housing board that I was able to contact, including ones in Wyoming and Minnesota. Anyway, so that was the good news. Some of the pluses that come out of our housing board here is since they do administer Millbank and Mobridge and a few of the other ones, they were able to take about $20,000 from the Mobridge housing for deposits because their funding was all used up when leases out there, and they were able to transfer it over to us. So it was really positive for Brookings County. Brookings County was fully leased up as far as what we had for federal funds through the Section 8. This last quarter, we've had a number of people have passed away that were on housing. Some of them have went into the nursing homes and stuff. There was about 14 on the list for housing. Currently, there's no longer a waiting list. And if someone comes in today, applies, gets all the paperwork in, they can, normally it takes about 30 to 60 days, but if they have everything up front, then they can get them in as little as actually about 21 days. So anyone that's looking for housing right now, they need to do that. We did see an increase in the number of people asking for assistance with rent at this time. I'm happy to say that ICAP is still doing the South Dakota CARES Act with our assistance of filling out the paperwork and uploading it. Salvation Army still has money left, and part of that is through the United Way. So at this point, we have money, but we do see a lot of increase. And with the moratorium on evictions, I only know that that's going to probably be something that we're going to have a major concern with once those things are lifted. Anyway, so that's all I have to say. If you have any suggestions, I'm sorry, can I one more? If you have any suggestions who you think would be useful in these Zoom meetings, I'd really like to hear them, you know. If you think there are certain individuals or organizations, one that comes to mind that we haven't had a lot of luck with is my neighbor. We don't seem to get them to participate so much, but I'm also thinking maybe I should reach out to some of the ministerial staff in our town and see if they would like to take part in it. Because it just kind of, we're able to go out there and say, hey, you know, with the county, a little different situation, you know, we're under budget, but if we ever start getting on the edge, then we just come in and talk with my commissioner and make sure that's okay if we go a little bit over on that one, as long as we cover it somewhere else, you know. But the other organizations right now do have the funding, and also the CARES Act is still in effect.
Yeah. Ms. Pierce, we do have a 9 o'clock. Should we bring Mike back up?
I can come back.
Stick around, we'll have you come back up. We have a 9 o'clock scheduled agenda item. Daryl Hartman, Brookings County Firefighters Association update.
Good morning. Glad I wasn't a couple minutes later. I was asked on the behalf of the Brookings County Firefighters Association to come talk to the county commission in regards to the funding. upfront, we understand that there are a lot of agencies that request funds, and we understand that. What we've seen over the last several years is we'll put in a request for 150,000, we get 100 or 110,000. In front of you is our budget. If you scroll down just a little bit more, at the bottom, that emergency fund, we've watched that shrivel up. That's for every 5 years, a department can receive an additional $10,000. That usually goes towards a apparatus replacement. And on behalf of the association, which is every department listed there, we're just asking for some considerations of, we're not just throwing a figure at you. We've actually sat down as a group. We're giving you a solid number. We're not trying to inflate it. And for the departments represented there, sometimes that's the biggest chunk of change they get. Like I said, we're very pleased the county commission does fund us. Especially for the smaller departments, it really helps out. But we've seen that for several years now, and again, we understand. Lots of people have their hands out. I'm just here to ask for some consideration during the upcoming budget cycle to see what can be done. And we put in for $143,250. We cut some out of the dive rescue, which is funded through this, and we took all the emergency fund out. And so we had to zero that out. The way this operates, based on the county commission's request, a lot of these departments would kind of nickel and dime their funds on smaller items. The county commission set this up for apparatus replacement. So it looks like we're sitting on a real big chunk of money in the long-term account, but that's all these departments typically taking these funds and we set them aside. This is our budget book for our organization. They'll let that accrue over years until they have a replacement that comes due. So they are, for the most part, using this the way the county commission requested. It's just our costs, like everybody else's, has gone up drastically over the years. We don't feel we're asking for a ton. It just, they wanted me to emphasize that the request we are putting in is really what we're kind of needing. So I guess I'm open to any questions if anybody has any.
Daryl, the sheet that's up there, that's the amounts the department requested for this current year?
Yes, that is correct. You'll notice the ones with the asterisks, they lie outside Brookings County border. The association as a group, and you'll see that down at the bottom, with them included, stated that they can only request $3,000 because they have another county to get funds from. That's their primary area, but they do cover part of Brookings County, so.
Any other questions?
This will be part of the budgeting process. The information for you to submit your budgets will be going out here in the next few weeks, beginning of April, and then it's usually due by mid-May.
Yep.
So
That's basically all I had, was come and kind of express our needs, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, would you like to come back?
My question might not have even been worth the walk. What I was wondering, Mike, when you give us your report that's in the packet, and it says somebody applied and they were denied or they were granted on the renter utilities, does everyone that comes in and talks to you show up on that?
No, they
Or-
do not. I'm
and
sorry.
I was trying to get a feel, you said that you had a large increase in rent requests, but that's not showing up in the packet. And could you just explain how that works?
If we have someone come in to apply for assistance, either be rent or utilities or funerals or whatever the case may be, if we notice right away, there's an alternative fund for it, then we do not assign it a case number. We just go through like with the low-income energy assistance or with the ICAP, I shouldn't say ICAP, but with the CARES Act, we go directly there with the money. Or if there's this, if we find out, say someone's on Section 8 housing, they're already considered that the county is helping them through the development center, so we do not help those individuals either. So at that point, we don't even take an application. We just tell them what to do and tell them that we cannot assist them and send them on. But we do not assign case numbers to all of them.
You used to, when you'd give us a report, you'd say, we had this many people in asking about that. And I don't think we do that any longer, but it'd be nice to have a feel for what's going on with people regarding housing. That's just what I think. I don't know what the rest of you think. I'd like to have a feel for how many requests we're getting for housing assistance, because when we're talking to, for example, our legislators,
Right.
they don't know we have an obligation on housing under the Poor Relief Act. And I just think that it'd be nice to maybe have a little more information that we can follow up with on that, but.
Quick question. So if you're not able to help them, do you then kind of point them in a direction of other agencies that might be able to? Coming with this group that you're talking about with United Way and different thing, and you want to get people that actually have the ability to give funds and help people out all in the same room to try to coordinate that. And I agree. I think the churches should be a part of that, because I think they do that for some of their parishioners and stuff too. So if you can't do you just say, okay, sorry, we can't help you, or can you point them in the right direction and say, but check these couple out here because they may have some funds available?
Oh, by all means, we always give people advice on which way to go. We never just say, no, we can't help you, go away. There is actually a card that we have printed out that has a listing of different organizations. Now, I'll talk, for instance, about ICAP. Most ICAP, you have to have children in the household. So if I have a single 40-year-old male that shows up to my office, well, I know I'm not sending him to the women's shelter because he's not being abused, or the abuse shelter, I should say. Apologies. I also know that ICAP probably can't help him because he's 40 and not disabled, and their money mainly goes towards families. Salvation Army is one that can help, so we're from Salvation Army. My neighbor, as long as they're residents of the city of Brookings or work in the city of Brookings, we know we can send them on. That's why we're talking about those Zoom meetings we have. I feel that they're very beneficial for us because now I know ICAP does have other monies other than the COVID relief funds, okay? We know where Salvation Army is sitting as far as their donations, because there's always a time that everyone is out of money. Every organization is out of money at some point. We do rely heavily on a number of the churches, and I have a list of 4 of them that we mainly deal with, okay? But no, we don't just say, in a rare occasion, if I've had someone that's been in my office 4 times and we've assisted them more than, with rent one time and utilities another, and they keep coming back, then I will admit that sometimes I say, you've used us up. We can't do anything more for you. I know you've used up Salvation Army. I don't know where you're going to go, but we are not there to support you for the rest of your life. If you need that, go to Social Security and apply for Social Security. But in the meantime, if it's a single family, and a lot of the people we do get in have only been there once, okay? There's actually very few repeaters in that group. So we want to make sure that when they're in the situation that they're in, the hardship they're in, that we do find some way of keeping the roof over their heads, heat in their house, and their families fed. So,
I appreciate those meetings.
We do have a 9:15 scheduled agenda item. It is action to approve agreement number 21-16, the letter authorizing for project number BRF 6312, parentheses 0018-1, PCN 06VH. Do I have a motion approved?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments? I believe we have Doug on the phone, is that correct?
Doug, are you?
Doug Kinneberg, South Dakota DOT.
Can you share some information on what we have before us here?
Yes, I believe that you got an agreement there to be updated so that we can provide some additional funding for you for the bridge improvement grant. What we're doing with the additional funding for scour analysis is we are actually, I apologize, I think you had the letting authorization there, is that correct?
That is correct, Doug.
Right.
Okay. So, and I'm really here just to kind of answer any questions you might have on the funding. I know there's been a lot of confusion with regard to how the department is providing the additional scour analysis and need for construction funds due to that additional analysis being done. Some new federal requirements came out that had us take a look at things a little differently and apply some different protective measures to locations that are susceptible to scour. For those listening and don't understand what scour is, it's the potential of stream bed washing materials out from underneath the supporting foundation. So we're just trying to take some additional precautions to ensure that those structures stay stable even during the severe events. But one of the things that we are doing, since this was a change that came in recent years, anything that we previously started had not anticipated, we are taking that consideration back to the Transportation Commission for consideration of additional funding to cover the needs that are caused by that additional analysis. This particular grant that you had applied for and received, I believe we did a 50-50 cost split on that. So, obviously the sticker shock you might see looking at the letting authorization there, thinking you're on the hook for 50% of that total sticker there, is not quite correct. And we do have established grant maximums set up by the grant itself that we will pay up to that amount. But as I had mentioned, the additional monies that we have anticipated for scour, we will take those exact costs to the commission for consideration of giving that money to you at 100% coverage. The Bridge Improvement Grant Fund, is limited to a maximum that 80% can come out of that. However, the commission has graciously allowed us to pick up the tab for the match to that and provide that through state construction funds. So with that, I'll kind of stand with any questions, or if I've confused you further, I can go into more detail on it.
Any questions?
So this is for the Sinai Bridge,
Yep.
to clarify that. And we do have our 50% match assigned in the Road and Bridge Fund for that. So what Doug is talking about, these additional costs that came up with these requirements, the state would pay 100% of those. And what they would do is basically cut us a check for that difference, that additional cost. And then as the bills come in, we'd basically be paying the state back. It's kind of kind of a goofy way to do it, but that's how we need to do it because we're paying the bills. So what we would see is when that check comes in for that additional cost overage, we would do an automatic supplement to the big grant line in our 201 fund so that we have the money there and budgeted so we can spend it as those bills start coming in when this project gets underway. This is the next step in getting this let. So I know we've been waiting a long time on this bridge, so we're finally kind of starting to get off center here a little bit, which is a good thing. So, and yes, this was a 50-50 cost share with the state initially on the grant when it was originally granted to us.
Of these amounts, how much increase was there because of the scouring?
Doug, do you know that, how much the increase was due to the additional
Well,
requirements?
We've tried to do this in different stages. Initially, we did a compensation for the consultants to just do the analysis. So we did go back and obtain funding to cover just that portion. If there was some additional design costs, and I don't recall on this one if we did or not, but again, we had taken those concerns back to the commission. We might have received another compensated check for the additional design. What the intent here for the construction amounts, since this could be the major portion of any potential cost increase. Once we take this to bid letting office and we receive bids in on it, we'll know the exact amount. We've already identified all the quantities and everything that are attributed to this change requirement. We'll look at what those low bid costs are, and we'll come up with the exact amount for additional construction costs that are caused by this. And that's what we will take to the commission for consideration for additional funding. We'll kind of do it at the same time that they consider the award of the bid. If we do get good bids in on it, obviously we'll have them take into ruling the additional scour funds before they make a ruling on awarding the bid. But as soon as the bids are open, we'll certainly be on the phone to you folks and discuss those results and what we anticipate on getting for additional scour funds, and you will still have the ability to weigh in on your thoughts on that and whether the county feels comfortable moving forward. That will also be part of the department's recommendation on whether to award or not.
And I guess, Doug, this is Commissioner Pierce, and the reason I was asking is I think the scour damage, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations about this, is directly related to the problems that we're having with the Big Sioux there. And I just wondered if you could just give a wild guess at what that scouring is costing, because as we're talking to different entities, I'd like to have that number in my mind when we're talking about drainage issues in Madera Township. Just a rough idea.
Well, and I apologize, I don't have the exact numbers, but as I recall, we ended up increasing the length of this bridge by about 42 feet. Does that sound right?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. So I mean, we're talking a potential required increase of close to $500,000 just off of a planning estimate number. Now, again, we'll take a closer look and see what the actual bid prices are. But yeah, we could be asking for the commission for about that much more 100% funding to be able to send to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, back to,
Thank you, Doug.
Doug?
You bet. Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow, probably.
All right.
All right, bye.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good morning. Just, I'll try to be quick here. I know you got a busy day. Is that I gave you the stats for the detention center and so I really won't go over that. We continue to stay busy. Staff, we're inconvenienced, but that's okay. Staff works good with the inconveniences, and sometimes we don't know what door they from arresting agencies, but everybody is good. Even the local agencies are good that we notify them, and they're supposed to call us before they bring somebody so they know what door to come through. But the construction company's good that we got our 2 bridges back up on the 24/7 area and so forth. So that's working good. Just some things, since you guys are talking budgets and full-time employees, I just let you know that I got staff working on budget, or not so much budget, but manpower, and Stacy's helped me with some figures and so forth, so I'll put together the money aside, and so not to surprise you on May 12th, because I've wanted time to, on May 12th, is that I'll present what I think we should be doing prior to that, so you commissioners are all on board, or cut my board, but we're working on that right now. Also, 11 inmates who had received their first shots received their second shots. There was a couple that had been released, and they both, I think it's 2, there might have been 3, come back and got their second shots. So we did, that was good. My mental health calls, continue for the guys, and we're in the second year of our laptops with Avera Health and so forth. And I still, to me, it's still a success, is that I think we're still around that 73 to 76% of the ones that we get hooked up on the laptops out in the field, is that they're able to stay in the home and put a safety plan and agree to see a counselor and so forth. So I think that's saving us some time in the field. Probably saves us a couple hours per call if we have to bring them in and call a counselor and so forth. So I think that so far that program is going good for us. Also, our nurses are working on telehealth in the jail, and I hope by the time the expansion is open, we're set up where could cut down a lot of our transportation to the clinic and the hospital with the telehealth, is that we'll get hooked up with a doctor or a nurse or whatever, and we won't have to transport. Also, we're working on the mental health side too. Instead of having to call a counselor in, and we could do the counseling just like we do in the cars. So that's progressing. I think that's going to, especially when we get into the expansion and so forth, I think that's going to save us a lot of transportation going back and forth. So,
Marty?
Yes.
Question. When you're making those calls for a counselor, is that East Central Behavioral Health that you're working with, or?
They're part of the program. The calls we're making actually go to Sioux Falls, the emergency at 3 o'clock in the morning and so forth. But the follow-up is with behavioral health. Yeah, behavioral health and Avera work together. So that's good. So yeah, that's part of the dimension is behavioral health.
Is that the calls that you're talking about when they're out in the field and they've got the iPad with them, that they're calling Sioux Falls? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
they're calling Sioux Falls. Yep.
So, since we're on that, I have another question, okay?
Sure.
When we look at Dan's report, there was not a decrease in commitments, mental health commitments in the last year. I didn't see any big difference in the numbers, if my recollection's right. So the numbers aren't supporting that would look like it doesn't support that the iPad project is reducing the number of mental health commitments. But are you seeing an increase in the number of mental health calls? That's my question, because the actual commitment number is pretty much the same for the last 2 years, I think.
I believe it, and I'll have my report too in the next, as soon as I got them working on the budget for the jail, so my statistician person will come up with a report. But we're still increasing, but a lot of the calls that we can handle either with our laptops or there's not a committal process. So I think we're making some headway. A lot of our mental health calls might not be, or I should say welfare checks might not be a mental health where we have to get a counselor involved. Our welfare checks might be, he hasn't showed up to work.
Right.
So and they can't get a hold of them. So we go to the residents, and sometimes it's like taking care of a kid. They've overslept or things like that. But then there's also the ones that have maybe mentioned something, and we go and put them on the laptop and so forth. I think we had a mental health. I think we had to transport to Aberdeen actually, because I think everybody was full. But I just think that laptop has really been saving us, because I think we've had 5 since the end of February and March that we used the laptop, and we were able to put them on a safety plan. So those types of calls, but maybe the call transporting to a mental health facility has maybe said the same. I don't even know what the statistics are for.
Dan's going to tell us in a little bit.
You got them in your report, I take it.
Well, yeah, the only thing I would add to that is, I think sometimes that laptop and that telehealth is being used when it maybe otherwise wouldn't be used because it's available. And so, like, to your point, I think it's not always in an IVC situation that it's being used. And so I think it's being used probably more commonly than it would be otherwise, just because it's available. And so I think when you talk about instances like that, it's not always in an IVC context. So
Those type of ones, if we didn't use the laptop, we'd have to bring them to the sheriff's office, call a counselor, and then they set up a safety plan at the sheriff's office. But we can set up the safety plan on the laptop, and then usually it's a follow-up with East Central Behavioral Health.
And I think that was one of the issues probably previously, a few years ago, with East Central Behavioral, is they were getting calls every night, middle of the night, and they couldn't keep their counselors. I mean, they were up all night with stuff like that maybe could be helped with the computer and talking to, the iPad or whatever, talking, which then, frees up the counselors to come in the next morning, get things going, or if there's a emergency, they can come in at night, but they're not coming in every night, burning them out, and doing that kind of stuff. And I think I think that's the important part of this, is having that ability to talk to somebody, keep them in the house, and not have to drag them down to the sheriff's department, bring a counselor in, and then send them back home. They can just do it right there. And I think that's what I've always seen.
yeah, and recently, my office, the sheriff's office, the police department, and then Brookings Behavioral got together and just discussed, because sometimes we'll get inquiries about people wanting to know what the IVC process involves. And so prior to this conversation we had, sometimes they'll reach out to the sheriff's office, sometimes they'll reach out to my office, sometimes they'll reach out to the PD. And so to streamline that, Mary Beth has just offered to have their on-call person at Brookings Behavioral be the kind of point person to direct a citizen to be able to go and ask questions about the IVC process. Because it used to be, for so many years, the deputy state's attorney would get calls in the middle of the night, would have to go down to the hospital or wherever to assist in this IVC process. And so prior to my arrival, our office kind of got away from that, and it was more of a law enforcement function to walk this person through that. Well, part of the problem there has been that sometimes, maybe depending on the situation, those questions weren't always being answered, and so it was we were running into some issues on what do you do, between the hours of 8 and 5. Can you reach someone besides the law enforcement agencies? And so just commending Brookings Behavioral for stepping up and having this on-call person assist in that IVC process. Because once the IVC is filed, our office then files that with the court. And so that's kind of our role in that. But
So Dan, on those now, that on-call person, is that a qualified mental health professional so that a doctor doesn't have to be called in?
no,
or
so that's separate. So the QMNP, the Qualified Mental Health Professional, they can't assist in the IVC process. They have to be separate. And so the on-call person is different than the QMNHP person.
So who's doing that piece of the,
Well, just staff at Brookings Behavioral. I don't have specific names for you.
okay, but it's not, that was the problem that we were having 8 years ago, is that East Central didn't want to do that piece, and so doctors were being called in, but that's not happening anymore.
No, they have QMNHPs there now.
Thank you. And those numbers haven't gone down then for those calls, because the IVCs are pretty much the same number from those 2 years.
But a lot of times, it's headed off before it has to be official committal. Actually, Bart Sweeby does a lot of, my office probably handled a lot of those requests, parents. They were directed to my office, and a lot of times I would talk to them, and then if there was going through the paperwork stuff, then I refer to Bart, because Bart, normally when there's a question at the hospital or another agency, Bart is the one that gets to do that, and he's pretty well versed in that. I've sent him to classes, and we've done a lot of things with that. And it's kind of nice to have one designated person to kind of handle that, because consistency is the main thing. We got so many agencies, and there's so much inconsistent. My office probably handles the bulk of the transports and the paperwork. Other agencies don't always know what to do with the paperwork and that, and we try to work through that. And
Well, and I'm hoping maybe this new process might free up some of Bart's time too, because I know Bart,
yeah, he gets kind of abused with some of that. I try to give him a day off once in a while.
Yeah.
But
And it is true that the sheriff's office does end up doing the majority of the
Right.
paperwork and the processing
yeah,
and
by
dealing
nature
with
of the
people.
jail and kind of just the welfare holds and all of that is part of that.
So I'm anxious for the expansion to use our two, especially with bad weather. What do we do with a person that we can't get them to a facility and it's bad weather? And so that's going to be something that there's no doubt we'll utilize that type of situation. We've been busy the last couple of days too. I don't know what was with yesterday. We had a couple DWIs. They must have had the blizzard blues or something, 'cause the day shift was busy tracking down cars yesterday, so during the day. Other than that, let's see, have any other questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D, Finance Officer's Report.
So there's nothing different in this, except I did in this time. Otherwise, it's the same report as always.
Is there any questions?
Any questions?
We do need action on those transfers as well.
Yep. Item I, action to approve the first quarter general fund transfers as per budget appropriations to the Highway and Road Fund and Emergency Management Fund. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any questions for none? Call the roll, please.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
And just the other things, the be it noted items, auditor's account with treasurer, payroll additives and totals, highway expenditure report, register of deeds, statement of fees are all part of that, and more be it noted items.
Okay, moving on to number 8, regular business. Item A, action to approve resolution number 21-09, a plat of Lot 9 of Ramlo Shores subdivision in Government Lot 4 in Section 21-T112N-R47W of the 5th Primarium, Brookings County, South Dakota. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion, Jacob? Call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B, action approve resolution number 21-10, a bridge inspection program resolution for use with South Dakota Department of Transportation retainer contracts. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Call the roll.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item C, action approve abatement number 21-3, an abatement application made by Brenda and Clifford Pratt for parcel number 37300-00300-004-0 $326.07. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion here?
Yeah, the background on this one was the Pratts filed an owner-occupied application with our office 2 years ago. and we went through all the motions of date stamping it and filing it away in their card, but we didn't apply the tax reduction, so we've done an abatement a year ago. For the 19, pay 20, and now we're doing 20, pay 21 for the same reason. So the 32607 is the difference in the tax levy for a full year between owner occupied and non.
Okay, call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D, action to approve abatement number 21-6, an abatement application made by Stephen Waldner for parcel number 34350-001, 00-001-00 in the amount of $684.84. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Background.
Yeah, this is a house in Elkton that was torn down on July 31st of 2020, so 684.84 is the amount to be abated for the value and taxes on that house from that point in time through the end of the year.
No questions? Call the roll, please.
Boersma?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item E, action to approve agreement number 21-17, an amendment to agreement number 19-45, an agreement by and between Teamsters Local Union number 120 affiliated with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters and Brookings County Sheriff's Department, effective January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any background or?
So Kristen and I were working with this. We did present this to the union, and they did sign off on this change. It just clarifies how to basically account for the hours when there is a half-day holiday when the county closes at noon.
Any questions? Hearing none, call the roll.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item F, action to approve agreement number 21-18, a State of South Dakota Department of Transportation Joint Powers Agreement for pocket gopher baiting services. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Misty, you have some background?
Good morning. This is our typical DOT gopher baiting contract we do every year with DOT.
Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Bartley?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item G, action to approve agreement number 21-19, an application for occupancy of the right-of-way of county highways made by Valley Telecommunications Co-op in Windsor Township. I have a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item H, action to approve agreement number 21-20, an application for occupancy of the right-of-way of county highways made by Valley Telecommunications Co-op in Windsor Township. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No comments?
I can just give
second.
it, with all of these Valley Telecommunications ones, I had the conversation with Brian when we put these in the packet, that he's been working with them since November on this because it is like a 32-mile fiber optic project. And I believe he said that he had required them to get a bond to protect our infrastructure before this project. So you'll see some dates on there from back in November. It's because Brian's been working with them this long to get things to where we are here today to get them approved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item I, action to approve agreement number 21-21, an application for occupancy of the right-of-way of county highways made by Valley Telecommunications Co-op in Bangor Township. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
They have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item J, action to approve agreement number 21-22, an application for occupancy of the right-of-way county highways made by Valley Telecommunications Co-op in Windsor Township. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item K, action to approve agreement number 21-23, an application for occupancy of the right-of-way of county highways made by Valley Telecommunications Co-op in Windsor and Bangor Townships. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item L, action to approve agreement number 21-24, an application for occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Valley Telecommunications Co-op in Laketon Township. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item M, action to approve agreement number 21-25, an application for occupancy of the right-of-way of county highways made by Sioux Valley Energy in Windsor Township. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item N, action to approve agreement number 21-26, an agreement for voluntary right-of-way donation between Brookings County and Gary Jensen. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Move
moved.
approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I believe this is for a structure that's being replaced within the county. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item O, action to approve agreement number 21-27, an agreement for voluntary right-of-way donation between Brookings County and Wayne Smedsrud. Have a motion to approve.
Second?
And a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item P, action to approve agreement number 21-28, an agreement with architect BKV Group for a modification to the construction documents to include replacement of the security electronics in the existing courthouse. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
This is the architectural services for the additional work on the security upgrades that we are going to be doing in the courthouse that kind of ties into the current jail project.
No questions? Call the roll, please.
Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item Q, action to approve change order 003 for the Brookings County Detention Center project in the amount of $9,370. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
And exactly what does this do now?
Change order changes the contract amount.
I meant, actually, I was talking about the work, the change order. Which one was this one? I'm sorry, I'm looking it up as we're talking, but.
So what makes up that total? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
Yes, right.
So, if you go to actually this page, you can see what this is. There's some site work by Clark Drew. That's actually a credit. Some steel material, aluminum glass, ceramic tile, it looks like.
That answers my question.
Yeah,
wasn't the one I
that
had the
second
question
page
on.
kind of
Yep.
spells out what all of those total up to. So there's a number of them, and they kind of present them as they get 6, 7 of them, then they present them as one kind of lump sum change order with a grand total. So there's a number of things, both credits and additional expenses that make up that.
Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Boersma?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next on the agenda is item R, approval of highway bids. Number 1, action to award bid for 3/4 crushed gravel on all items listed from Sturzinger Construction, Johnson Brothers Excavation, Sturzinger Construction, and Rogie Excavating. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 2, action to award the bid for 250-pound crushed quartzite riprap, 150-pound erosion stone crushed quartzite, 1 inch by number 4 crushed quartzite and crushed quartzite ballast number 4 on all items listed from LG Everest. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 3, action to award the bid for HR class asphalt on all items listed from Bowes Construction. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 4, action award the bid for natural cover aggregate on all items listed from Johnson Brothers Excavation, Concrete Materials, and LG Everest. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 5, action to award the bid for road oil on all items listed from Flint Hills Resources and Jebro Incorporated. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6, action to award the bid for equipment rentals on all items listed from Prusman Contracting and RDO Equipment Company. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Approval of highway bid agreements. Number 1, action approve agreement number 21-29, an agreement with Sturzinger Crushing of Taunton, Minnesota for 3/4 crushed gravel. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move
moved.
approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 2, action approve agreement number 21-30, an agreement with Johnson Brothers Excavation of Madison, South Dakota for 3/4 crushed gravel. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 3, action approve agreement number 21-31, an agreement with Sturzinger Construction of Elkton, South Dakota for 3/4 crushed gravel. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 4, action approve agreement number 21-32, an agreement with Rogie Excavating Incorporated of Ghent, Minnesota for 3/4 crushed gravel. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 5, action approve agreement number 21-33, an agreement with LG Everest of Sioux Falls, South Dakota for 250-pound crushed quartzite riprap, 150-pound erosion stone crushed quartzite, 1 inch by number 4 crushed quartzite, and crushed quartzite ballast number 4. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6, action approve agreement number 21-34, an agreement with Bowes Construction of Brookings, South Dakota for HR class asphalt. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 7, action to approve agreement number 21-35, an agreement with Johnson Brothers of Rutland, South Dakota for natural cover aggregate. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 8, action to approve agreement number 21-36, an agreement with Concrete Materials of Corson, South Dakota for natural cover aggregate. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 9, action to approve agreement number 21-37, agreement with LG Everest of Brookings, South Dakota for natural cover aggregate. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 10, action to approve agreement number 21-38, an agreement with Flint Hills of Marshall, Minnesota for road oil. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 11, action to approve agreement number 21-39, an agreement with Jebro Incorporated of Sioux City, Iowa for road oil. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item T, action to approve the notice of award to the Road Guy Construction, Yankton, South Dakota for the 2021 chip seal project at the bid amount of $84,971.22. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second?
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Can I ask a question?
Question, go ahead.
Is this the same company that did it this year?
Yes.
It is? It's the same
Yep.
entity? Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Boersma.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item U, action to approve the notice of award to Asphalt Surface Technologies Corporation, Aztec Corp., for the 2021 microservicing project at the bid amount of $743,065.85. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, call the roll.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 9, Commission Department Directors Report.
One thing to note too, just so it's noted in the minutes that Brian Gusted did submit a highway report on the agenda, so that's noted. As far as my report, I do have the surplus cash analysis information for both January and February now caught up, and we are doing quite well. We're above average for both of those months. As we move into March is typically pretty low because we've been spending money, and come April we'll start getting that first half of our tax revenue in, so that'll go back up. So you kind of see it trend a little bit lower, and then it kind of shoots back up in April. So that is good. I also provided the FTE information that was requested at the last meeting, updated that so you can see the change in FTEs over the past 10, 11 years by department, and then overall by county at the very end. We're up one half FTE, and that's basically the authorization at the BCOAC to hire additional part-time membership assistants is what that accounts for. Let's see, today is the day at 2 o'clock. The RFPs for the Samara Avenue project are due at 2 o'clock. We have had some interest shown, so we're hoping to get several of those in today, so that keep that in mind. We'll be looking at those here in moving into the next couple of months. Other than that, just some upcoming dates. Of course, leaving today, some tomorrow, but Wednesday, Thursday, the spring workshop, SDACC spring workshop is going on out in Pier. Friday, April 2nd is a Good Friday, so the offices will be closing at noon that day. We mentioned this a little bit earlier on. Tuesday, April 13th is the equalization board date. That'll start at 8:30. Again, that's not a commission meeting date. That's kind of an in-between Tuesday, but we'll get that knocked out. I know things are due to Jacob's office by the 6th, so we'll have a better picture after that to what that agenda will look like. Then the next day, we do have that award presentation from the South Dakota Center for Prevention of Child Maltreatment. for the South Dakota Resilient Communities Initiative. That's going to happen at 10:30 right here in the chambers on the April 14th at 10:30. And then looking a little bit further out, we've kind of been talking about this off and on, but Wednesday, May 12th, I have it scheduled from 8:30 to 5 is that commission study work session. Just making sure that you all have that on your calendar. I've also reached out to to the department heads to let them know that that is happening that day, so that if they need time with you that day, and I've heard back from some, but we will be, as it gets closer, we'll develop kind of what that agenda looks like and whatnot. But I wanted to make sure that that is on your calendars. As with most of you, I am going to be heading out to Pier this afternoon, so we will catch up with you out there. So I'll be out of the office the next couple days, but I'll be with most of you anyway. So that's all I have, unless you have any additional questions for me.
Hearing no questions? Attorney's report.
Well, I don't really necessarily have a presentation. I just tried to put together as much information as I can in a rather self-explanatory way. Because I'm presenting to the county commission, I got to know my audience, and you guys care about the bottom line in terms of the money being spent. So that's why I included the overtime. The staff did a great job of getting the work done without expending as much overtime as we have in previous years, and so the staff is deserving of a lot of credit there. Looking at that, we've been able to process nearly as many cases, but do it in a way that I think demonstrates a certain degree of efficiency. So we're happy about that. Starting with the felonies, if you want to scroll down, Stacy. I would just tell you here that the reason our number is down this year compared to last year is that I made the decision to back away from THC oil as a felony, just in light of the Amendment A and how the voters feel about marijuana. I made the decision to not prosecute THC oil as a felony, and that will remain in effect regardless of how Amendment A turns out. We're going to refer those to a new diversion program that we've actually already started. And that'll be available for all age ranges if you're picked up for THC oil, any other type of marijuana concentrate, or in the traditional leafy marijuana type situation. So that's why that number is down a little bit. Methamphetamine is still the #1 felony in Brookings County. That's consistent across the state of South Dakota. And so, we're looking at 40 to 50 cases of THC oil that, would have been processed, but either they were pled down to a misdemeanor offense or they were referred out to a diversion program. So that's why that felony number's down just a little bit. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is just a breakdown. Like I said, most of that felony drug conviction is related to methamphetamine. So drugs still make up, a large percentage of the felony cases that we process as an office. Second largest is property crimes, and so that's your, a burglary of like a storage shed, intentional damage to property, grand theft, other crimes against property would make up that blue portion. And then the violent felony offenses would be your sex crimes, your aggravated assaults, those sorts of things, or a simple assault enhanced to a felony would be considered into that violent crime category. But drugs still by far are the largest portion of the felony crime. So if we go to the next one. Yeah, class 1 misdemeanors, down from previous years. It's interesting to see kind of the ebbs and flows of that, 2017 till now. It was way up and then it's back down and then it's up and it's down. So, part of that was some of the, when we kind of locked down as a county back in April, there were less people out and about, less people getting stopped by law enforcement. And so I would tell you that April was a pretty low month last year just because of those pandemic type effects that was taking place, just in terms of, you know, law enforcement's ability to stop people just because of some of the things that were happening. So, you know, that does have a consequence. Less people are getting arrested, so therefore, you know, I'm going to have less cases to process. So I would tell you that because of that, the Class 1 misdemeanor count was down a little bit. And so that, I think, explains why we saw that downtrend this year. Go to the next one. But DUI convictions were up. I would tell you that this is kind of a twofold deal. You know, Ben and I have taken a much more aggressive stance towards DUIs. We're less likely to plead DUIs down if the blood test is near 0.08. You know, across South Dakota, typically the benchmark is if you have a blood alcohol test of 0.10, I would say most states' attorneys' offices are pleading that down to a reckless driving. We've taken a little bit more of aggressive stance. You know, that was one of the things that I wanted to improve on last year, is not pleading as many DUIs down if their blood test is, you know, near the 0.08. And then also more people are drinking and driving because of the pandemic for whatever reason. I know DUI arrests are kind of up nationwide. So that results in, you know, 20 DUIs compared to the 3 years prior to that. So we're kind of getting back up close to that 2016 number, but whether it goes up or down this year, I guess, remains to be seen. But that kind of explains the uptick in DUIs. Domestic assault convictions. So don't confuse this with arrests. I would just tell you that there were, and as in other years, there are more people arrested for domestic violence, but the convictions is what we're looking at here. So sometimes due to insufficiency of evidence, sometimes victim cooperation, other factors might result in the case being pled down to, say, like disorderly conduct, or the case sometimes being dismissed. Not often, but these are the cases that resulted in either an aggravated assault domestic violence conviction or a simple assault domestic violence conviction. And the difference here compared to like a simple assault is these assault convictions were a domestic relationship. So domestic relationship being defined as a significant romantic relationship between the abuser and the victim. This doesn't account for your typical simple assault or an aggravated assault where you don't have a domestic violence relationship. This slide only touches on those assaults where there was a significant romantic relationship as defined by law that a assault occurred. So then, of course, many of you have heard about our underage drinking diversion program. So this is the data since 2 years actually, because we first began that in March of 2019. Been hugely successful. Really proud of the work of the participants. Really proud of the staff at Brookings Behavioral for being able to teach this class, but then also a big thanks to all of our nonprofits here in Brookings that have been able to step up and offer volunteer service hours. You know, this shows about an 85% successful completion rate if you do sign up. We've had, of those 32 that were unsuccessful, you know, 99% of them drop out of the program, but then they come back and just plead guilty in court. A few, you know, there's bench warrants issued just because they just completely blew us off. But the 210, really some amazing success stories that I've heard from the nonprofits where some of these participants end up going back and maybe working part-time at these nonprofits even after the diversion program is completed. And then also what we're seeing is that some of these individuals end up going back to Brookings Behavioral to address mental issues that they didn't even know they had. So it's really kind of opened doors for these participants to either continue to volunteer, because I've heard from the Humane Society that some of these participants even go back a second, third, or fourth time after the program is over to continue to volunteer, and I've heard that from other nonprofits, but then also the mental health side of it too. So it's been a big win for Brookings County, I feel like, in terms of our ability to service some of these individuals and make them better people after they come in and out of the system. So if you go to the next one. I just wanted to highlight too, like, some of the benefits of diversion when we talk about that. We talk about the 2,100 hours of community service generated for nonprofits here in Brookings, but then also, $21,000 of monies that were paid to Brookings Behavioral Health. And, as the county commission gives, what was it, $150,000 of non-mandated funds to Brookings Behavioral last year. And so, we're continuing to invest in these service providers here in town. And through this diversion program, this is all offender paid for. There's no taxpayer dollars, that are going towards this, at least from the county side of it. And so, yeah, it's been great. Obviously there's room for improvement, but we're excited about the results so far. And we're holding people accountable, but doing it in a way that allows them to be more successful in the future and then also reinvest in the community. So we're taking this same model and we're going to start applying it to marijuana offenses. I've just decided as state's attorney that I'm just going to honor the will of the voters as they decided in Amendment A. And regardless of how the court process plays out during the appeal process, I think the voters, at least especially here in Brookings County, have spoken. They want me to treat marijuana differently. And so we're going to continue to offer the diversion program for those marijuana offenses and kind of head in that direction. And we have a great model to build off of. Brookings Behavioral Health has developed a class a little bit more specific to marijuana offenses. But we're going to have them do that as well as community service and continue to head in that direction. So I won't go into the other slides that I provided just because, you can look at those and reach your own conclusions as to the data. I mean, I think you can probably read the numbers a million different ways, but kind of is what it is. So if there's any questions. Yep.
Okay, moving on. Commissioner Pierce.
On March 3rd, I attended the Chamber Weekly Legislative Meeting for the update with the legislature, and I think generally came out not harmed. That might be the way to say that. On March 4th, I attended the Public Affairs meeting, and if you want to calendar this, if you're interested, Public Affairs will be hosting the forum for the mayor race for the city of Brookings on March 22nd. That'll be a Zoom meeting at 6 p.m. On March 25th, we'll be hosting the school board forum, again, a Zoom meeting at 6 p.m. And on April 3rd, there will be the city council candidate forum at 9:30 in the morning. That's a Saturday. The other two were evenings. On March 5th, I attended the JDAI meeting along with Dan. And we're just moving forward with putting that program in place. On March 5th, I attended a security audit meeting with the sheriff and Judge Stoltenberg and went through that process that the UJS is having each courthouse in the state do for courthouse security. We'll wait and see what comes from the state now that that's concluded, but that'll take a while. But since I was at the courthouse anyway, I took, as the new commission liaison, an opportunity to walk around the building and look at some things. And I'm concerned that probably we need to be doing some better upkeep at the courthouse. We have places, a lot of places where we have water damage that's not been fixed. We have a windowsill in the third floor courtroom that has wood rot from water damage. We have the courtroom on third floor needs some serious attention to the woodwork, the oak that's in there. Everything's been kind of scratched up and beat up, and it might be time to look at doing some repair things in that regard. So as we work through that process, and Stacy and I sit on that committee together, we'll be getting back to you and talking more about probably some things that we need to do to just for regular maintenance on the courthouse. The other thing I asked Stacy about, and I don't know if you have an answer yet on this, Stacy, is I'm hoping that with us getting to the place we are on the jail, that any of our landscaping stuff, I know normally you just landscape everything when you're done, but I'm hoping that we can be looking at that west side of the grounds, because I think we'll be done with everything that's an outside part, so that this summer, we don't let this summer go without doing some of that landscaping on the outside west part of the detention center. And I think Stacy was going to reach out and talk to somebody about how that's being calendared. And then, I don't know, Angie, if you had an opportunity to look at the tables in the courtroom. There are some changes that need to be, that we talked about last time. But that's pretty much my report. Thank you.
Mr. Bartley.
On the 11th detention center meeting, that went really well. It actually was a short meeting for a change, about 35, 40 minutes. And at noon, we had a meeting with the security contractors looking at some other things that are coming through on the jail. So that went all right. That was only about a 2-hour meeting, and we got through that. And that's basically my report.
Mr. Krogman.
My meetings are at the end of the month. I was at the city planning and zoning meeting on March 2nd on behalf of Beta and the Brookings School, a group of us there for the city to amend their comprehensive use plan for the area that they're considering the bus transit garage. And so that was successful. So I was there for that, but that's all I have.
Mr. Boersma.
BEDC task force meeting for plan. You get to strategically plan, which is fun. And then that afternoon we had a NACO Next Gen meeting as a part of the legislative conference where I was elected treasurer for the next year. And then last night we had a Brookings Behavioral Health and Wellness Board meeting and discussed many of the things that Dan talked about. Of particular note, I think it's worth mentioning and congratulating Robin from Brookings Behavioral Health and Wellness, who specifically heads up the chemical dependency portion of their services. She's done a phenomenal job with that program. And the amount that she genuinely cares about people that come through that program, I think, is evident when you start seeing the level of referral that comes back for other services. So things going well there. They're looking at additional staff expansion to meet additional needs in the community. Again, I believe 2 more positions in the next several months. And we've been talking specifically about the kind of delayed services that we're seeing in terms of waiting lists at Avera Behavioral Health and other behavioral health places in the Brookings community. Sometimes folks waiting for appointments up to a month. And that's not acceptable in crisis situations at all. And so making sure that we've got staffing to handle that is part of the challenge, and we're having to look more regionally and nationally to find folks who are qualified to do those services, because we're not seeing the timeline from graduation at SDSU until their licensure is complete. Just takes a little while. It's a heck of a process, and so finding folks who are qualified and able to provide those services right away is something that we're having to look more broadly for. So that's the report.
Okay. Attended the Brookings Conservation District on the 11th. Volunteered out at the pod at the Swiftel Center from 7 to 3. And then we had a weed meeting at 3 o'clock go over our annual bids and contracts with the state. On the 12th, I had a few calls from some individual when the load limits were going on the county highways, and I believe they went into effect yesterday. And the only other deal is remind everybody is today a pie day down in the break room.
Yesterday was a pie day, but there,
Oh,
I
yes.
think there might be a little bit of pie left if you can get down there before everybody else gets down there today.
Okay. With that, later on we'll be heading out to Pier. Go item in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law -1-25-2, parentheses 1, 4, and 6, and contract negotiations. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Take a brief recess before we go into executive session.